Hello and welcome to another React.js workshop. My name is Sloba, and today we're going to be building a React quiz application, or actually extending what we built on the previous session. So if you haven't watched the previous workshop, I highly suggest you to go to the description of this workshop and to find the links of the previous workshops. You can go over to my YouTube channel, Code with Sloba, and in the live section, you can find the previous recording. If you want to follow along with me, what I'm doing in this workshop, you can also go to the description and grab a GitHub link, and we're going to download the repository and we're going to add some new features. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do a little bit of refactoring from the previous workshop, and we're going to add some additional features. And we're going to code like from 45 minutes to an hour, and then we're going to have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions for me, stay with me until end of this workshop, and you may ask questions if you have any, obviously. Also, I'm going to include people from Instagram and all over the social media. So we have people from Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, all over the place. So hopefully we're going to have some great time, and we're going to learn some new stuff. So I think that's all. I'm going to share my screen, and we may start with a coding session. So let me close all these things that we don't need. Q&A session is going to be afterwards. So let me stop the music so it's not distracting, and let me share my screen. Okay, so once again, I suggest you to go over to the description box of this stream and find the link of this GitHub repository. So because this is the code that we built on previous workshop, and we're just going to be extending, like I said, and adding new features. So what I'm going to do, the easiest way to download the repository is just to go to code and then download a zip. So you can download using SSH, HTTPS, using the command line, but the easiest way is just download a zip, and that's it. Once that's done, we can close down the browser and now open up the code editor of your choice. And for me, this is the Visual Studio Code. So let me open the folder in the download section. See, or actually in the desktop. Okay, I cannot see it. So just to confirm that we have downloaded, let me go in the download section. Yeah, at first we need to extract it. So just right click on it and extract here. Like so, and now we can open this folder. So let's go File, Open Folder, and in the download section, we have this React Quiz app main. So this is the actual branch name, but yeah. So I trust the authors, yes, so just click on this yes, if you have it. So let me just zoom in. Like I said, the first thing which I want to do is to do a little bit of refactoring. So last time we just wanted to do introduction about how to set up React project, but first, I want to install the packages that we need for this application. So open up the terminal that you have in Visual Studio Code, or if you are not using Visual Studio Code, you can just go like right click and open up a terminal. So yeah, but for me, it's easier just to open up it like this. I will change the command to git bash, or actually the terminal to git bash, and just I'm gonna install the packages. So npm I to install the packages for our application. We just have only like 4 or 5 packages, and that's it. So it's not going to take a lot. So actually 98 packages. Yeah. So these are like the dependencies of the packages that we have. So, but if you check on the package itself, we only have React and React DOM, and then we have these dev dependencies. So there's not a lot, but these packages actually have packages that by themselves as well. So the first thing that I want to do is let's head over to the source folder. And now, as you can see, we have two components. We have this app component, which is the main component, and we have this quiz component. So what I want to do is I want to add a structure to our application. So once we start adding new features, it's built up for scaling, right? And we can actually start our application. So let's run npm run dev, which is the command for starting our application using Vite building tool. So we can just click here, and let me bring it here. So I can actually close the GitHub window, and this is the application which we built on previous session. So we can even put it inside of the same window because this is not a wide application at all. So we can see it lively while we are coding here. Okay. So like I said, let's build a new folder inside of this source folder. And let's name this one. This is the usual naming convention. So let's name it that as components. Okay. Let me just for a second check the chat. Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that people are being able to follow along. Okay, so inside of this components folder, we're gonna move in this quiz component. So let's move it. And actually, we're not gonna update, or actually we can update it here, but what I want to do is for every single component that we create, I want to create a separate folder. So let's create a new folder here, and let's name it as quiz. Now inside of this quiz, let's import this quiz folder or component, and we want to update the imports. So Visual Studio Code does this automatically, which is very, very nice. So let's save that. And also what we want to create inside of this quiz folder, I want to create a CSS file. So as you may see in this index file, we have all this code, which is public code, but also something related to the quiz component itself. So what I want to do is to move this CSS code into a separate CSS file. So inside of our quiz folder, let's create a new file and let's name it quiz.scss, like so. And now what we can do is we can just take this code from the container. We can save this index file. Obviously, now it's broken. So we're going to save it here. And now we need to import it inside of our quiz. So just import quiz.scss, like so. And now we don't have access to our variables here. Now, so what we can do is actually we can extract the variables in a separate file, and then we can access those variables there. So what we can do is we can create a new folder for styles. So let's create a new folder, and let's name this folder as styles, like so, and make sure that it's inside of the source folder. So let's move it outside. And now inside of the styles folder, let's create a new file, and let's name this file as vars.scss, so for variables. And now inside of the index.scss file, let's just take this and let's just move it inside here, like so. And now what we can do is we can go to the quiz and import those variables. So let's just import, and let's find what is the URL of it. So inside of the styles, or actually we need to go one step up, and then inside of the styles, and then vars.css, like so. Now if we save it, it should work, like so. But I want to move this index file as well. So now let's see here inside of the index.scss file. So I want to move it as well, and then import these variables here as well, because we need the variables inside of the index.css file. So let's first save it. It's going to break our project for a second. Let's move all the styles to be inside of the styles folder, like so. And now we need to import the variables because we are using the variables for the background, for the color and whatnot. So again, let's import, and it's inside of the same folder, and we need to import vars, like so. But one thing we need to update inside of the main.jsx, we actually need to update the import of our style. So from styles and inside of the index.scss, like so. So let's just refresh our application, and it works like expected. Beautiful. Okay, so let me just see what else we can do. I think that actually this basically sums up what we can do for the refactoring, and we have basic setup now. So what we can do is we can start adding new components and new features. We can obviously, let me close all the files. And what we can do is we could obviously optimize our quiz application because it's a little bit long. So, but we can do that later if we have time. So but for now, I want to add first component. So what I want to add from the features is I want to add a counter feature. So basically what it means is we're going to add a limited time that you can answer the questions on this quiz. So basically on top here is going to be counter, and we're going to be able to answer those questions. before the timer counts down. So let's add a new component, and now we can create all the components inside of our components folder here. So let's name our component. Let's add a new folder, and let's name it as answer timer, like so. And make sure that this folder is inside of this components folder, not inside of the quiz. And here, let's add a new file, and let's name it answer timer.jsx, like so. And now here we're going to create new functional component. But before we create our component, let's add a CSS file. So this is the, basically the pattern that we use for all components. So we have a component, and then we have CSS file next to it. And the naming convention is exactly the same. So answer timer.scss, like so. And now what we need to do is just import it. Next, or actually this is not a CSS import, so just import the file, which is answer timer.scss, like so. Okay. And now let's create our component. So it's going to be a simple functional component. So let's name it answer timer. And let's export it. Export default answer timer, like so. And the only thing which functional component needs to have is return statement, like we discussed on previous sessions. So let's just say hello, like so, to see if it works correctly. And now what we can do is we can include it inside of our quiz application. And I want to include it here, next, or actually above our component here. So let's include it here. Let's add it like that. So, but first we need to import our component. So here in the import section, excuse me. So import answer timer from answer timer here. And there you go. Here we have this hello. So now we need to style this and make it like we want it. So this is going to be a very simple component. So because essentially it's just going to be a div with a progress bar, and that's all. So let's just create a div, and let's add a class name. So this is how you add classes, obviously, in React. We covered all the basics in the previous workshop, so I'm not going to be repeating myself. But basically, class is reserved name in a keyword in JavaScript. So that's why React has this class name to differentiate it between the classes, which you can create in JavaScript. So for the actual class name, let's add a class answer loader container. Be answer loader container or answer timer, whatever, timer, like so. And then inside of this, we're going to have another div, and this is going to be for the actual progress. So let's just add a class name of progress, like so. Okay, and now let's add some style to this component. So first, we need to import variables. So let's find it inside of our style folder, and let's import this vars folder so that we have it available here. And now let's first target this parent component, or actually parent div, like so. And we want to make this as positioned absolute. So, but obviously to make it on top of our component, we would need to make our quiz container as relative. So set the quiz position relative, like so. Okay, and now let's set position here to be absolute. And now let's set the position top to be 0 because we want it to be here on top left. So top 0, left to be 0. Width, we're going to take 100%. And we're going to add some border on the bottom. So border dash bottom. And I'm just going to add 1 pixel solid and use disabled color. Okay, we cannot see anything because we don't have height added to our child or our container. So inside of our container, let's target the progress here. And inside of the SCSS, obviously, we can nest our CSS rules. So we want to set height to be 5 pixels. Let's set the transition duration to be 1 second, so it looks very smooth. We're going to set the initial width to be 0, but obviously we're going to update. So let's say, for example, to set it to 50%. So, and let's set the background to be red, so that actually you can see how it will look like once we're done. So you can see this is the progress that we're going to be building, or actually making it work. So, but let's set it to here, width to be only 0 at the beginning, and inside of the JSX code, we're going to update it to take the width depending on the actual counter. So width to be 0, and let's set transition timing function to be linear. So we don't want to have any ease in or ease out. We just want linear motion, like so. And now inside of our, okay, we have created that. And now inside of our answer time in JSX, we want to do a couple of things. So first, we want to start ticking the timer. So for that, we need set interval. So let's first import a couple of things that we need to implement that. So first, we're going to need a couple of hooks. So import use effect from React. Use effect is a hook in which you execute your asynchronous code or some side effects. So for example, set interval, set timeout are the functions that you would execute inside of this use effect hook. Or when you make an API call or subscription or whatever asynchronous code you're trying to write. So how we write use effect is we just call the use effect hook, and it takes 2 arguments. The first argument is the function that you want to execute, and the second argument is array of the dependencies. So if any of these dependencies changes, this use effect hook will rerun again. But so if we want to only run this hook once, we'll leave this array as empty. So this is what we want to do. Initially, when we load our loading component, we just want to load this once. So what we want to do here is we want to call set interval, and on every single second, we want to change the counter. So inside of the interval, we want to execute a function like so, and the interval is going to be, like I said, 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. And here, in order to track the counter, we need to import useState hook, which we covered in the previous workshop. So useState, like so. And now what we can do is we can create new variable. So let's create a const, and name of this variable is going to be counter, and updated function for a variable is going to be set, but lowercase, set counter. And we're going to set initial state to be 0. So we're going to start at 0. So every single second, we're going to increase the counter by 1. So how we do that is we call the set counter, and we take the current value, which we can access inside our setter function, and then we just return back value increased by 1, like so. And how we can test that is we can use this counter inside of our, let's say, progress. And when we refresh, you can see on every second, it increases our progress. Nice. Okay, so let's remove that. So what we want to do next is we want to, once we update the counter, we want to update the width of this progress. So we need another use effect hook. Or actually, before we do that, one very important thing to know is that we cannot leave this interval function like that. We need to clean it up. In case you destroy your function, this would still continue to run. So how we do that is we need useRef hook. So let's import useRef hook. So useRef hook is hook which you use to make a reference to maybe document object models. For example, you want to focus on an input field, or you want to change color of something, or you want to make a reference to set interval function or object. So this is the great use case for it. So let's create a new constant, and let's call it interval ref, which stands for reference. And now just initialize our reference, use ref hook actually. So how we can assign or store the set interval object inside of this use interval ref is by accessing the current property. We just assign the current property to a current property of interval ref from set interval. And now, how do you clean up from use effect hook? Is you just add return statement. So you just need to return a function. So how we do that is just return something, and that something is a function which clears this interval. So we just call the native clear interval method or function, and we just pass in the current. And that's how we clear the intervals inside of the use effect hooks inside of the functional components. And now, like I said, we want to update this progress with the loading. So how we do that is let's add another use effect hook. It takes, again, function. And the second parameter is, again, list of the dependencies. But this time, we want to rerun this code every time this counter changes. Like so. Okay. So what we need to do is first we need to add additional variable, and inside of that variable we're gonna save the percentage of what has been or what time has passed. So let's add one more variable, and let's name this variable as progress loaded, like so. And let's add this setter function, set progress loaded, and it's also going to be 0 at the beginning, so 0%. So what we want to do, first we want to update on every counter change. And how we update our progress is we use counter, and we divide counter by the duration length. So let's say that we have duration from the parent component. So this is something variable which can be changed on different places. So let's say inside of the quiz application, here on the answer timer, we set the duration to be, let's say, 10 seconds. So we can access duration here as a property, and we can divide it. Duration. And so how we set the progress in percentages is we just divide the counter by the duration. So in this case would be 10, and then we just increase that or multiply that by 100, like so. And now we have the progress being updated every single second and stored inside of this progress loaded variable. And the second thing which we want to do is we want to check if we reach the end of our progress, which is 100%, obviously. So what we need to check if counter is equal to duration. So here we set the counter to be 10. So it's going to start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And when we reach 10, what we want to do is we want to clear the interval and stop that. So how we clear the interval, again, similar to what we did here on our use effect hook. So just clear the interval. And again, we can access this interval ref current. And apart from that, what we want to do is we want to say to our parent quiz function that our time is up, so it can perform some certain actions. So for example, if time is up, we want to mark that we haven't answered the question correctly in a given time, and we want to proceed to the next question. So we need to pass a new function, and let's name that function. Let's see how we're going to name that function. So let's say handle time up, let's say. Let's call it const handle time up. So this is just a simple pad arrow function. And for now, we're just going to leave it empty. And we're going to pass here. And let's name our function on, or actually our property on time up. And here we're just going to pass our handle time up function. So here, once the time is up, we want to call this function. So we can perform some operations like I said previously. But once we reach the end of the timer, we want to give it 1 second because, as you remember, Here, we add transition duration to 1 second. So once we reach the actual 10 second, it will take 1 more second for the animation to complete. So we want to be in sync with that. And let's add timeout here for 1 second. Just set timeout 1 second. And then we want to call our function, which we are passing here from the quiz application, which is on time up. We can access the function from the property, and we just call this function on time up, like so. So what we can do is we can actually just test if this works, and we can just alert time is up just to see if it works. Okay. Now let's refresh and let's try again. We are not seeing anything in the UI because we haven't started interfering with the progress itself. But after 10 seconds, we get this time is up. Okay, nice. This works as expected. So let me remove this alert because I hate alerts, to be honest with you, like so. Okay, so the next thing which you want to add is obviously to update this progress and to have something visually represented. So how we do that is we can use the style property. So let's access the style property, and style property receives an object. So inside of this first curly brackets, this stands for expression, and the second one is for the object itself. And we can update the width. So we can set the width to be the progress which we actually saved here, progress loaded. And we just need to add the percentage at the end of it. So like so. And what I want to do as well, so you cannot see it now, but let me just save it because the background is transparent. So if I go to answer time, let's add a background color to just red, let's say. Now let's refresh. And now you can see our loader, or actually timer, is working as expected. But what I want to do is to make it even more interesting. So let's remove this background color and let's make it dynamic. So depending on the time, we change the color. So how we do that is we just access this background color property on the style here. And we want to check what is the current progress. So let's open up ticks, and we're going to have a couple of, like so, and we're going to have a couple of checks. So inside of this expression, first let's check if progress loaded is less than 40. So if it's less than 40, what we want to do is we want color to be light green. Green, like so. But if progress loaded is more than 40, but less than 70, here let's put it 40. So if it's 40, if it's less than 40, we want it to be light green. If it's more than 40 but less than 70, we want it to be orange. And it's more than 70, we want it to be red. So it gives like alert to the user that the time is going to expire. So let's see how it works. Let's refresh our application. And as you can see, it starts green, then it changes to orange, and then it becomes red. Beautiful. But now what we need to do is, when it gets to the end itself, we want to update the UI. So actually what we want to do is we want to set basically answer is wrong because the time has been up, and we want to proceed to the next question. Okay, so what we need to do is we first need to set answer. We're going to update our answer function, and let's set the answer to be false, like I said. And then we need to call our onClick next function and just let's pass in this value because, and I will explain you in a second. So what we need to do is we need to add new parameter, and let's name this parameter as final answer. Final answer, and then we can check for this final answer instead of this answer here. And we need to update this onClick next here as well. So let me just add a function, and let's pass in an answer here. So why I did that? Let me just explain it for a second. So if we update the set answer and we call onClick next, the answer inside of this function is not going to be updated yet because it needs to be updated on the next re-render. So on the same re-render, it will update it, but it will hold the value of the previous answer. So in this way, we're actually making sure that we are passing in the latest value of the answer, which is false in this case. So what we are doing is we are setting the answer to be false, and we are telling let's proceed to the next answer. So or to the next question actually. So let me save and let's see if it works. So let's refresh. We are not selecting any answers. Let's wait it to go to the end, or actually we can even change to 5 seconds so we don't have to wait for 10 seconds. But as you can see, now we selected the answer as wrong and we switched to the next question. So let me just set it to 5 seconds so it's a little bit faster. But the problem now, as you can see, we haven't resetted our progress. So what we want to do is when we proceed to the next question, we want to reset our progress. So the easiest way to do this is, I mean, we can do it this multiple ways. One of the ways could be to reset all the properties that we have inside of our answer time. But as we're using this transition duration property on CSS, it will take 1 second to reset this loader, and it will show it how it's getting backwards, which I don't like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it like the simplest way is just add a new flag, and I'm just going to show this flag to false and then to true. So basically hide and show this component so it's reset in the DOM itself. So what we're going to do is let's add a new variable, and let me just call this variable as, so it's going to be a new variable, and let's name it as show answer timer, and update a function set answer set show answer timer, and initially it's going to be true. So when we load our component, we want this loader to be visible like so. So now what we want to do is we want to check here. If this is true, then we want to render this component. If it's not, don't render this component. So how we do that is by adding 2 ampersand characters. So if this on left is right, render this component. You also have this ternary operator when you add conditional. So if this is true, render this entire section. Otherwise, render this section. So depending on how many actual cases you have, you may use the ternary operator or ampersand characters. So in this case, this will work. Okay, so now it's always true, and we always see the progress bar. But what we want to do once the time, or actually once we reach the next, so whether time has been up or we clicked on the next button, we want to reset our progress. So what we need to do is here inside of onClick next, what we need to do is we want to set show timer answer timer to false. So we want to hide it first, and then what we need to do is we need to use here at the end of the, I mean, it doesn't have to be at the end, but for like logical reasons, I like to put it at the end of the actual function. We need to use the set timeout, and I will explain this in a second. Set timeout, and set timeout obviously just receives a function, and you don't have to specify what is the actual value. So why do we need to set it inside of the timeout? If we just call it like this outside of the set timeout, the value false and value true would be changed in the exactly same queue render. So what it means is it means that the component or the actual variable value is not going to be changed, because in the same rendering queue you're updating the same value twice. So initially it's true, but you're changing it to false, and then you're returning back to true, which doesn't change it at all. So what we need to do is initially set it to false, and this gets executed in the rendering queue, but then all the asynchronous code like set timeout is getting executed afterwards. So then it reappears with the function. So now let's try if it works or not. So let's refresh our component. So let's wait for 5 seconds to expire. And then boom, we can see it starts again. So what we actually can do is we can wait for the end of this questionnaire and to see if we got all the wrong answers, because we are marking the answers as wrong on the time up here. Here, set answer to false. And let's wait for the last question. And here we can see total questions 5, total score is 0, correct answer 0, and the wrong answers are 5. So our timer is working as expected. Beautiful. Okay, so we actually finished this very quickly, and I think that we have time even more to add some additional features. So let's say that we want to change, let me refresh this. So let's say that we want to add a different type of answers, or actually questions. So what we can do is we can add one more question. So if we go to, let's say we go to here to constants, and let's copy this first question because we need that same structure. We have multiple choice questions, but we want to add an input. So for some questions, it's not enough just to answer it using like the choices, but we can add questions using the input itself. So we can input different values. So let's say the type of this question is going to be fill in blank. This is shorthand for that fill in blank, like so. And let's set, we don't have any choices. And let's set the question to be like this. So first we have this blank space, and then we ask, provide a way to pass data from one component to another. Then we just say, fill in the blank and dot. And now the correct answer should be props. Like so. So props provide a way to pass data from one component to another. Okay. And now what we need to do is let's add new section inside of our quiz component here. So here, as you can see, we need to first detect what is the type of the question. So here we can access the type, just reduce the width here, and then we can check if the type is multiple choice question, we can render these choices. If it's not, we need input. So, but we can, there's multiple ways how you can do this. You can create a new component, or you can create a function inside of this. So it's up to you. For this purpose, I'm gonna create just a simple function inside of our quiz component. We can optimize it in future workshops, obviously. So let's create a function, and let's call this function as get answer UI, for example, in lack of better term. So we need to get the type, and depending on this type, we're gonna render different things. So first, I mean, as default, we want to render multiple choice question. So what we can do is we can just take the unordered list, this one here, and just paste it inside over here. And how you execute this function is just instead of this unordered list, we just open up expression, and we just call our function here. And now if I just run this, it should, I mean, for the actual parameter, we need to send a type. Like so, I mean, we could even access the type, or no, actually, just a second. Yes, so inside of our question here, yes, from the current question, we can actually access the type from here. So because we don't need it, because we are actually destructuring our questions here. So yeah, we don't need to pass it as a parameter. Yeah, this is fine. So if I just save it, and if I refresh it, we should see no changes, or actually we have some issues. So let me just debug it. So let's see what's the issue. If I open up the console log. Okay. So you cannot read undefined. So we don't have the access to choices. So let me just see. Okay. You don't have access to choices, but actually we should have the access to choices. Let me just see for a second. Why don't we have the access to choices? Probably, let me see, because, yeah, one obvious reason, because we don't have the choices on the first question here. We remove the choices. So what we need to do is actually, let's check if the type is equal to, and we said is filling blank like so, we want to return back something different. So let's return an input. And yeah, we can code it later. So this is what we would get. Yeah, now it works. So on the second question, yeah, we get back our multiple choice question. For the first one, we just get the input itself. So now what we need to do is let's apply some styles because our input just looks terrible. So inside of the quiz, let's add some CSS. So let's scroll a bit down, and here, let's add an input. And I want to add a border. So let's add a border 1 pixel solid. And let's use disabled. Let's set border radius to 4 pixels. Let's add some padding on top and bottom. Let's set it to 10 pixels and left and right to 20 pixels, like so. Let's add width to be 100%. Let's add some margin on the top to be 20 pixels, and I want to set the box sizing to be the border box, so it's not more than what we expect from it to be. Now let's see how it looks like. That's more like it. Okay, let me close the quiz. Let's see the time. We are still on time, so soon we're going to have Q&A sessions, so please stay up with me. Okay, so here what we want to do is we want to do a couple of things. So first, we need to create another variable, and using this variable, we're gonna handle our input. So let's create this variable and let's name it as input answer. So const as input answer, and the updated function is going to be set input answer, like so. And now we're going to use useState hook, and let's set the initial value to be empty string, like so. Okay. Okay, so now what we can do is for this input field, we need to give it a value. So here, the value of this input. And what you need to do is to handle onChange event. So onChange event, similar to regular HTML inputs, we just have this camel case, and we want to call new function, which we're going to create in a second. So let's call it handle input change, like so. Let's create this new component here, handle input change, and this component takes event from this input, or actually this function takes event here. So what we want to do here is we want to first update this input answer variable. So let's call it set input answer to be event.target.value, like so. And we want to check if this is correct answer or not. So if event.target.value is equal to correct answer, then we want to set the answer to be true. Set answer to be true. Otherwise, we want to set the answer to be false. Answer to be false, like so. Okay. And that pretty much solves it. So what we need to do next is we want to check we want to disable the next button until, let me just refresh it for a second, and let me increase the duration to 15 seconds so that we have time to explain what's happening. So first, we want to check if there is something entered. So if we start typing props, you can see that this is still disabled, because on the next button itself, let me just see where it is. This is next. Okay, so we are disabling only if answer IDX is null. So what we want to do is and if there is no input answer. So if we have input answer, we want this button to be enabled. So let's save it. Now we should have this button enabled once we start typing, like so. So let's say that we input the proper props answer. So let's go in, or actually let me reduce the duration so that we finish this faster. I mean, it doesn't matter, but yeah. So let's type in props and let's click next. The answer here is virtual DOM. For this one is user interface. For this one is, again, props. For the next one is JavaScript. Babel is JavaScript compiler. And as you can see, we have total 6 questions. Total score is 30. And we have correct 6 answers. So beautiful. So what we did, I think this is enough for this workshop. So what we implemented in this one is we added this progress bar and we added input field. So we have multiple types of questions. As if you go to the constant, here you can see we have this type fill in black, and we have these multiple choice questions. For next workshops, we're probably going to have different types of features that we want to add. So it may be saving the state to your database. It can be maybe adding authorization. It can be, I don't know. So if you have any suggestions how we can improve this quiz application and what features can we add to it, let me know in the comment section below. And now we can start with the Q&A session. So let me just open up that and we can continue with that. So let me also include people on Instagram so that they can answer or actually ask questions as well. Let me just find them. And I think you guys had a fun coding with me. Let me just open up Instagram as well. So here. Okay. And hi guys from Instagram. We just completed the workshop and we are ready for a Q&A session. Unfortunately, people from Instagram are not able to follow along with us because of the format on the Instagram itself, but at least they can follow this Q&A session. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask. Once again, I will just explain what we did on this session. So what we did is basically we extended the workshop on the previous session, which we did, and we just added new features. So hopefully you guys learned a couple of things here and there. And on the next workshops, we're going to extend this even further. We're going to add some new additional features. And like I said, probably I'm going to bring even guests on this live stream and these workshops, and you guys can even learn something from the back end. And yeah, so I'm just going to show you guys so you can see the questions that I'm sharing on my screen as well. So let me just see for the folks on Instagram. So yeah, there's a lot of people who is joining. What is the best React.js channel? For me, the best channel is definitely Free Code Camp. There's so many great things on that channel, so I just love Free Code Camp. You can learn not only React, but there's a ton of things which you can learn on Free Code Camp. So for me, the best channel, apart from mine, obviously, if you haven't seen my channel, please head over to my YouTube channel called Visloba, and you are gonna find some amazing content for React, for Angular as well. So yeah, and this workshop. So not many people do that actually. Good evening. Actually, it's not evening here. I'm just like to keep my room dark because you cannot see the mess that it's currently in. So that's why it's dark, but actually it's sunny outside. So yeah, let's see if there is any more question for you guys. How your Instagram account grew up. How my Instagram account grew up. So to be honest with you, I didn't spend a lot of time growing my YouTube, or actually my Instagram account. The only thing which I did is actually just I just created content on daily basis, and I just started being active. That's all I did. So I didn't apply any like strategies. For unfortunately I don't have time even to engage and interact with my with people who who are following me, unfortunately. So because I just have a lot of following over there, in like 9 months I managed to get to nine to actually 113,000 followers. So that for me, that's amazing. Okay, so one question on YouTube. So what is the best video for front-end React Tailwind? Again, I'm not sure what are the best videos, but for me, like probably the best channel where you can find amazing content is on Free Code Camp, and over there you can learn pretty much all the technologies that you want. So I actually have as well some videos on React and Tailwind. So you can go on my channel called with Sloba, and hopefully you can see something interesting there. So let me see the Instagram. What is a workshop? So this is a great question, actually. What is a workshop? So workshop is a live session where we go and together we are building a project, and you can follow along on different social media like LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, even Facebook. Unfortunately, not on Instagram because of the video format. But these are the social media where you can follow along, and you can learn coding. You can ask me questions, and we are building this very basic, beginner-friendly video series for React, and we're building this quiz application. And yeah, that's the purpose of these workshops. So you guys have time to code along with me, and to ask me questions if you have any. Okay, let me see what other questions. Some people are asking for job. Yeah. Hello, everyone. Okay, so this question from Bella Chow, nice name. Is it possible for someone who doesn't know about web but want to learn? Obviously. I mean, you can learn anything you want. This is a weird question, to be honest with you. You can learn anything, especially nowadays when we have all this information available on on tips of our fingers. So if you want to learn anything, basically you can just head over to Google and learn it. So I actually made a career switch. I was a nurse like 12 years ago, so I made a switch. Later I joined, actually I signed up for a college, but you don't have to. You can learn anything from Google, and I think that majority of stuff that I know now is only from self-learning. I learned in school about basics of HTML, CSS, and I learned some data structures and algorithms over there, which is very useful. But yeah. Okay, let's see some more questions. Okay, some people are having issues on YouTube. I don't know if it's me, but your YouTube streaming loading in between. Instagram is live, is working fine. I don't know what's the issue. I will check after this live stream. Hopefully people were able to follow along, but if not, we maybe change and switch the platform which I'm streaming from. Okay. Okay, question. Hi, can you explain how to learn new technologies, frameworks in most efficient way? In my opinion, the best and the easiest way to learn something is to build projects. So just choose a project, to-do app, something basic like quiz app that we're building right now, and this is going to be a great way for you to start learning what you need in order to complete a project. So maybe you're not going to do that by the best practices, but eventually you're going to improve. So in my opinion, the fastest way to learn something is just start building projects. Okay, so what are minimum requirements for junior front end? In my opinion, minimum requirements, and these requirements are updating over time, but in my opinion, it's HTML, CSS. When I was starting, was jQuery, but right now it's JavaScript. So those three are absolutely necessary for a junior developer, and only with those three technologies, you can build pretty much not everything, but a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of channels actually that just show vanilla JavaScript content, and they're building amazing things. So people just jump into start way into React, Angular, all this stuff, but there's not. I don't see this. I mean, obviously the market is setting up the standards and what you need to know in order to get a job. But with only with these three, I think you can even get a job as a junior developer. Okay. Okay. Hi from Istanbul. Nice to see you. Let me see on Instagram. Is there any more questions? Unfortunately we are closing soon because I don't have a lot of time today, and we're gonna make this a weekly thing. So you will have a chance to meet me next Friday, and we can continue with this workshop. So there's a lot of people who are joining, especially on Instagram, but not many questions. If you have any questions, feel free to. Okay, so learning path for Node.js. To be honest with you, I'm not an expert in Node.js. So, but again, in my opinion, just start building some projects. I don't know. Maybe I can create some post and make some research on what you can do for Node.js to be expert in it. But I'm definitely not an expert in Node.js. I'm trying to focus only on front end because I'm a more visual person. Is there a softbox in your room? Can't see reflection on you specs. Yes, definitely. Actually, if you join, let me just show you guys. So here's the softbox, and if you join on YouTube or LinkedIn, you can see my second camera where I'm just showing my setups. My setup. So yeah. Okay. Let me see if there's any more questions. We have only time for a couple more questions because I need to run in 2 minutes. So let me just see. Make a project on Next.js. Yeah, actually, I have one project on Next.js. I mean, not on Next.js, but we're just using a couple of features of Next.js. So probably even on this project that we are building today on quiz application, we can add some features from Next.js, and we can build some endpoints and whatnot. So we will see. Where are you from? I'm from Serbia. Nice to meet you guys. Let's see if there is any more questions. What should be done to be good in backend development? Really, I'm not a person to answer about the backend. I mean, actually, I had some experience with C# and PHP like 10 years ago, but I really don't know. We're gonna have guests in some future workshops, so maybe somebody can answer that question for you. Okay, how can I learn JS easily? Well, you cannot learn it easily, but in my opinion, the best possible way, not the best, but like for me, the easiest way to learn JavaScript is just start to build simple features like carousels, drop downs, menus, stuff like that. So just start with simple stuff, and when you build like 10 or 15 websites, you're gonna start seeing the patterns and what is required to build the forms. That's very interesting. Sign up forms, registration forms. So once you start handling JavaScript with those basic things, you're gonna see and you're gonna learn it a little bit. And then I really suggest to read a book, to watch a video course, and repeat that a couple of times. Let it sink into your brain. Yeah. Okay, let's see if there is any more questions. Can you share some Python courses? Definitely not. So this is a JavaScript workshop. Okay, if there is any. Explain learn by doing term. How to learn web dev in most efficient way. So I already explained this. So start by building projects. So like I said, you start building a website or web application and you hit a roadblock. You don't know how to, let's say, create a registration form. So you would go maybe to Stack Overflow, and then you see some answers over there. Maybe you go on YouTube and make some research on how to build a form, and you just start to learn piece by piece. So this is the most efficient way because you're learning the things that you need. So you're not learning the things that you're not going to be using on everyday projects, but actually you learn the things that you need for the actual projects. Okay, how to start learn coding? I just explained this. So what's the name of the other website or channel to learn code? JavaScript Mastery. This one is amazing. This guy is building only projects. So I think it's an amazing project, amazing channel to be subscribed. And actually, I'm subscribed as well on JavaScript Mastery and on Free Code Camp, and the third one is Fireship. Fireship is also very informative one. Okay, let's see. One more question, guys, and I need to leave, unfortunately. Let's see on Instagram. There's so many questions. So many guys are joining. So create a playlist on Node.js. Okay, maybe. Like I said, not a Node.js expert. Okay, let me see. Okay, so I see that there's just a questions chat. So amazing. What is the hardest thing to learn in JavaScript? The hardest thing to learn in JavaScript, I would say, data structures and algorithms. So to learn the algorithms itself, how they work, how to optimize them, how to solve these difficult questions, problems. This is the hardest thing, I guess, in JavaScript. Yeah, but also like it depends on the features. So yeah, so there's a lot of things that are hard in JavaScript. These are one of those. Yeah, but fortunately, uh, there is not too many like data structures and algorithm problems that you face in your daily job as a front-end developer. At least that's not for me. And that's all. I think that yeah, we have covered a lot in this workshop. So hopefully, guys, I'm gonna see you on next Friday. So stay tuned on my Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube channel to get more information when the next workshop is going to be. And we're going to extend what we built in this workshop, and I'm going to push that to GitHub. So guys, you can check it, you can follow along. And in case you didn't have time to watch this workshop right now, head over to YouTube Code with Sloba and just check on the live section where this live session is going to be uploaded. So until the next Friday, stay well and happy coding. See you guys.